Hi, my name's Elenore. I'm nearly 24 years old and I work as a barista. I didn't grow up in a Christian home and I've been at church for about a year now, and for most of my life until this last year I've been carrying a burden that has really pained me through my life. My parents separated when I was really young. I lived with my dad as a child. He was like my absolute hero. He'd always go out of his way to make me smile or just do anything for me. There wasn't a moment where I can't think of him not doing stuff for me. We'd play games, play charades, dance around the house listening to the Beatles, or just do so many things. And it didn't matter what I was going through. He was always there to support me, even if it was really hard. I remember one night we were playing a game of charades, and for some reason I just turned around to Dad and I said, "You won't ever leave me, will you, Dad?" And of course he said no. And the next week, I remember this day just like it was yesterday. I remember getting home from school that day and he wasn't there like normal. I remember spending the whole afternoon not knowing where he was and contacting family members and trying to find him, and still nothing. Eventually I went back to Mum's house that night and I just remember running in and falling into her arms crying. And later that night we got a phone call, and yeah, that was the day that I lost my dad, my hero, and my childhood as I knew it at the time. So after Dad died, I had to move in with Mum, and family life became complicated and messy. I didn't really want to have any kind of social relationship with anybody in my life at that time. I would lock myself away in my room and starve myself, and life just seemed pretty pointless. Eventually I started hanging out with some people that probably weren't the best influences. I was drinking and smoking and doing whatever I really could to try and fit in with everybody else and feel accepted. At the same time, I was struggling at home and I didn't feel safe in my own home, because the first 9 years of my life I was sexually abused. Pretty much straight out of school I met someone. I had my first real relationship when I was about 17. Pretty soon that relationship turned pretty toxic and became emotionally abusive. I pretty much devalued myself and put my identity on the line for the image that somebody else had in mind for me. And I was so insecure I couldn't leave. I just felt trapped. Eventually I got a new job and I had to drive past this little stone church every day to get there, and it just happened to be a job owned by a Christian family. For some reason, every time I drove past that church I felt this pull to just go in there, and I just kind of ignored this for a little while, and then I thought, no, I do need help. I was depressed again and I was crying myself to sleep in pain that I didn't even understand about what had happened as a child. And I remember just laying there one night and just not knowing what to do with my life, and I thought one thing that I haven't tried was saying something to God. So for the first time in my life I prayed, and I didn't even know if God was real at the time, and I felt kind of stupid, to be honest. But a couple of weeks after that I was invited by my work colleagues to go to church, and for some reason I just felt so compelled to go. I remember sitting down in that first church service, and it was about forgiveness, and that hit home for me so hard, because I realised in that moment that I needed to forgive the people that had abused my trust and robbed me of so much in my childhood. The more I came to church, the more I realised that my life had so much purpose, and I can't even explain the relationship that I've developed with God just by attending church and becoming stronger in my faith. I've been able to experience true happiness and joy for the first time in my life. It's just so surreal and overwhelming. Like, I just never thought that I could ever feel that way. I've always suffered with anxiety and depression, and in the whole year that I've known God, I've not suffered with that once. It's just unexplainable. It's just crazy. God's taught me so much in this past year. He's basically turned my life upside down, and it started from anew. I've learned to forgive and deal with my past. A year ago I couldn't even admit it to myself, and now I'm able to share it with other people and hope that, even if just one person can find God through what I've suffered, then it was all totally worth it. Looking back on my life now, I can see that God was there with me all along. He was just waiting for that moment. I've come to realize that, we're all broken and we're all suffering, and it doesn't matter what we're suffering with or what's happened to us in our past. If God can make change in my life, He can make change in anybody's life. My name is Elenore, and I am unashamed.